All right, good afternoon, everyone. Peter Marzano here with another episode of Pick and Pop. And today we're going to be talking about the surprising win by the Houston Rockets on the road last night, beating the Golden State Warriors 95 to 92. They end up guaranteeing that series at least goes 6 games, and they tie the series up at 2 games apiece. So, as a basketball fan, I hope everybody else is also thankful that the two conference finals are good series. That even though we haven't seen a lot of close games in either of these series, we've certainly seen a whole lot of competitiveness. We've seen a lot of fire from both sides at different times, and we're guaranteed to see 6 game series in both of them, which I think is certainly worth it. And I'm very excited and, of course, anxious for the Cavs Celtics game tonight, that being game 5, as both teams look to take that very advantageous 3 games to 2 lead. But it was all about what happened last night between the Houston Rockets and the Golden State Warriors in game 4. A game that the Golden State Warriors were a little short personnel-wise. They did not have Andre Iguodala in this game, and after starting him for a good amount of this postseason and really making the death lineup the first unit, and then having Kevin Durant play with Quinn Cook, Jordan Bell, Shaun Livingston on that second unit, you certainly see that there's some things to iron out when you don't have Andre Iguodala, who has arguably been one of the most valuable pieces on this Golden State Warriors team, one of the most valuable players in general in terms of postseason play. When you're looking at him winning the Finals MVP in 20, everybody knows about Klay 11 and scoring 46 points. But the forgotten hero of that game was Andre Iguodala, who forced Kevin Durant to 10 of 29 shooting in a potential closeout game on the road. Andre Iguodala was a man locking down his future teammate, Kevin Durant, in that game. So just a few examples right there of just how big Andre Iguodala is, how much he means, and especially this year with him starting, it makes a whole nother difference when you're looking at the rotations and what Steve Kerr needs to work out. And that was apparent, especially in the fourth quarter of last night's game. And this was a game that was really weird. None of the quarters were close. Golden State dominated the first, outscored them 28 to 19. Houston nearly doubled up Golden State in the second, 34 to 18. Golden State doubled up Houston in the third, 34 to 17. And then Houston more than doubled up Golden State in the fourth, limiting them to 12 points, outscoring them 25 to 12. So you enter the fourth quarter and Golden State is up by 10. They have an 80 to 70 lead. And you'd like to think that at home in a playoff game, even if you don't have Andre Iguodala and Klay Thompson, who was certainly sore, had a knee strain, I believe, but played throughout the whole game and hit some big shots. But, you'd like to think that if you're the Golden State Warriors, Iguodala or not, heading into the fourth quarter, no matter who your opponent is, if you have a 10-point lead, you should be able to hold it at home, especially in a playoff game. So there's certainly some questions about the Warriors without having Andre Iguodala there, that defensively they just weren't able to get the stops they needed to. And more importantly, they weren't able to hit a shot. I think a lot of that has to do with how aggressive Houston was defensively. They picked up 41 rebounds in the game, which isn't a lot, but keep in mind they only played 7 players. Eric Gordon and Gerald Green were the only 2 players to come off of the bench. So you had 4 players on Houston playing 40 or more minutes. PJ Tucker played 44 minutes and 8 seconds in this contest. And while he didn't hit a field goal, he had 16 rebounds to go with 4 points, all at the free throw line. And he was huge in this game. And then you had Clint Capella, who in 24 minutes picked up 13 rebounds. James Harden and Chris Paul combined for 57. Harden with 30, Paul with 27. Chris Paul hitting some huge shots down the stretch as James Harden really went off in the second quarter, was not able to completely regain that throughout the rest of the game. Was actually 3 of 12 from 3-point range, but Chris Paul 10 of 20, 5 of 9 from 3, and was really on fire in the second half, and certainly won this game for the Houston Rockets. And I think before the series, thinking about Chris Paul needing to win a game for the Rockets in order for them to have a shot in the series. And it happened. Chris Paul won a game for the Rockets in the Western Conference Final against the Golden State Warriors. And more importantly, it was a must win on the road. So now we're tied at 2, and Houston has, the home court advantage in the best of 3 that's remaining. For Golden State, Kevin Durant had 27 points, but on pretty inefficient shooting. He was 9 of 24, 1 of 5 from 3, also with 12 rebounds with 3 assists. And Stephen Curry had 28, hit 6 threes, so he certainly gave you enough. Draymond Green had 11 and 13. Klay Thompson only 10 points, hit 2 threes, but was visibly injured in this game, and certainly something to look at. And their bench combined for a measly 12 points. And while, that has a lot to do with not having Iguodala in the starting lineup, but maybe there needs to be some rotation changes. Would not be surprised if you end up seeing a guy like David West or even Zaza Pachulia back in the mix for this Golden State team, because they certainly need to make adjustments, and they just really weren't hitting 3-point shots. They were 9 to 27, which isn't awful, but certainly you'd like to and expect to see much more out of Golden State. And they shot 39.3% for the game. So you have to give credit where credit is due. Houston was big defensively in this game. Chris Paul made several big plays. Trevor Ariza, I was already talking about Clint Capella, and of course PJ Tucker, who made the biggest impact. Even Eric Gordon had a few defensive plays that really made a difference in this game. And Gerald Green, in 11 minutes and 44 seconds, picked up 2 blocks that were big in the time that he was playing. So this was really one of the more impressive wins I remember seeing in a long time, because the Houston Rockets are their backs against the wall. They're trailing by 10 on the road going into the 4th. And without James Harden really on, they found a way to win a game. And Chris Paul was certainly a big part of what carried them to that. So a really impressive game for CP3, who needed to respond, especially after some lackluster play in Game 3, needed a big answer, and he came up with one really impressive, and certainly shows their heart, his heart, and the heart of the Rockets that has certainly been questioned by me. This is a team that I've been skeptical on the whole season, but that is a big win and certainly makes you think about the outcome of this series, which certainly now can go either way, with Houston having 2 of the next 3 games at home. As far as Game 5 tonight with the Celtics and Cavaliers, you have to like the response that Cleveland has had in the series. And granted, in Game 4, after a huge start, the Celtics actually won the second, third, and fourth quarters by small margins, but they weren't ever really able to turn the deficit. So with the Celtics back home, and after them just having the blowout loss in Game 3, you'd have to think that they're going to come out with more aggression and look to have the definitive start in Game 5. With that being said, I really expect LeBron James to put on a masterclass of basketball tonight. I think in Game 5 on the road, he's had perhaps the most defining moment of his career on that floor. Game 6 of the East Finals in 2012, with the Heat facing elimination. He ended up having 45, 15, and 5 and led them to a win, and eventually the series win as they win Game 7 as well. So I'm really expecting big things out of LeBron James tonight. It's just going to come down to the supporting cast. I think more importantly for the Celtics, they were just not hitting shots nearly as much in those last 2 games. I know in Game 3, that was really apparent that, yes, they got blown out by 30, and you have to give the Cavaliers credit for the adjustments that they made defensively. But I do think a lot of it, and in Game 4 to an extent, goes up to them not hitting shots that they usually make. So in a situation tonight, they're going to look to get more of them to fall at the Garden. It's going to be a very close game, I think. I'm very nervous as a Celtics fan, but I think Cleveland's going to win tonight. I think LeBron James is going to have another masterful performance, and I think that guys like J.R. Smith and George Hill and Jeff Green and Tristan Thompson are going to give you enough of that supporting cast that they need in order for them to pick up a game. part of it is just me being skeptical, knowing that LeBron James doesn't go into series and not win road games, especially in the Eastern Conference. So it would be very, very impressive if the Celtics were able to pull off the win tonight and put the Cavs on the brink heading back to Cleveland. But we'll have to see. It'll be a really exciting game. I'm certainly looking forward to it. Other than that, that's all I have for you today. Thank you for tuning in to Pick and Pop. I should have something for you tomorrow, and looking to get a few more album reviews up within the next couple of days. I put up my first one. If you want to check that out, took a look at Thank Me Later by Drake, his debut album released in 2010. And that should be on my channel. But other than that, that's all I have for you today. Have a good night, and thank you for tuning in.